He was the quietest man in the loudest room. Johnny Carson, America's midnight companion, the king of late night. For 30 years, he defined what it meant to be funny on television. But before he slipped away into retirement and silence, he confessed something rare. Not about fame, not about success, but about people. In scattered interviews and offhand remarks, he revealed the guests who truly moved him, the ones who made him laugh, think, and just maybe feel a little less alone. Tonight, we count them down. 10 guests Johnny Carson loved most, and what they revealed about the man who kept America laughing. Number 10, Jerry Seinfeld, the student who became a peer. When Jerry Seinfeld walked onto the Tonight Show stage in the 1980s, Carson saw a reflection, a craftsman obsessed with timing and truth. Jerry's jokes were clean, observational, disciplined, and Johnny, who'd built his career on precision, recognized the spark instantly. After a killer set, Johnny did something he rarely did for newcomers. He motioned Jerry over. "Come here," he said, grinning. "You're going to do all right." It wasn't just approval. It was a coronation. In that moment, the future of stand-up was passed from one perfectionist to another. Number 9, Orson Bean, the wit who felt like family. Before Hollywood fame, Orson Bean was pure conversation, warm, curious, mischievous. Carson adored guests who could talk, not just promote, and Bean was a storyteller without end. He'd wander through absurd anecdotes about vaudeville, marriage, or philosophy, and Johnny would sit there, relaxed, alive, laughing. A producer once said Carson lingered after tapings only for Orson. He didn't need questions, Johnny said. He was the whole segment. They were kindred spirits, magicians turned showmen, each nostalgic for a gentler kind of fame. When Bean's life veered into eccentricity, communes, spiritual quests, Johnny didn't judge. He welcomed him back always, because Orson reminded him that talk could still be human. Number 8, the amazing Kreskin, the mind that astonished the master. Carson was a magician at heart, sharp, skeptical, impossible to fool, and yet the amazing Kreskin managed it again and again. When Kreskin read minds and predicted impossible outcomes, Johnny's cool facade cracked. He leaned forward, wide-eyed, laughing like a boy. "He fascinates me," Carson admitted. "It's not tricks, it's psychology." That was the bond. Both men lived on intuition. Kreskin read people. Carson read rooms. Each performance was a kind of hypnosis, proof that control and chaos could coexist on the same stage. Number 7, Rodney Dangerfield, the underdog who made the king lose control. Whenever Rodney Dangerfield took the mic, the studio dissolved into laughter before he even spoke. "No respect," he'd groan, tugging at his collar, and Johnny would already be breaking down behind the desk. Rodney made him lose it every time. Carson once confessed, "Rodney's the only guy who can destroy me every single show." But their bond ran deeper than laughter. Both had climbed from obscurity, craving approval that never came easily. Behind the humor, they shared a quiet sadness, the kind that turns pain into punchlines. After one particularly wild set, Johnny leaned over and said softly, "Rodney, you're the real deal." For a moment, Rodney didn't joke back. He just nodded. Number 6, Jonathan Winters, the mad genius who broke the host. Jonathan Winters didn't perform. He possessed the room. Give him an ashtray and he'd turn it into a character. A pencil became a general, a phone became a horse. And Carson would be gone, helpless with laughter, barely able to breathe. "When Jonathan's here," Johnny said, "I just stay out of his way. It's his planet." Winters' manic improvisations awed him, but more than that, Carson saw a kindred spirit, another man whose brilliance came with private battles. Winters had fought mental illness openly, and Johnny respected his courage. "That's what television should feel like," he once said, after a winter's appearance. Alive. Number 5. George Carlin, the rebel Johnny couldn't stop respecting. Carson was a traditionalist, clean suits, clean jokes, clean timing. George Carlin was his mirror opposite, wild hair, raw language, rebellion incarnate. And yet, Johnny admired him deeply. He'd first hosted Carlin back, when George was still buttoned up and tame. Then came the transformation, the long hair, the counterculture, the truth-telling that shook the establishment. Carson didn't agree with everything Carlin said, but he admired how he said it. Fearless, brilliant, exact. George is dangerous, Johnny told a staffer, but he earns it. Carlin represented everything Carson secretly loved about comedy, honesty wrapped in rebellion. Together, they showed that truth and laughter could live on the same stage. Number 4. Don Rickles, the insult comic who broke through Carson's armor. Don Rickles didn't just appear on The Tonight Show, he invaded it. He mocked everyone, the band, the guests, even Johnny himself, and Carson adored him for it. Their chemistry was pure fire. When Rickles called him a boring guy from Nebraska with no friends, Johnny howled. He once said, "Rickles gets away with murder because it's never cruel. It's rhythm. It's jazz." Off camera, Rickles was one of Johnny's few true friends. He'd call late at night just to make him laugh. When Carson's personal life darkened, Don was the one who could lift the weight with a single insult. Their famous 1976 cigarette box incident, Johnny barging onto Rickles' neighboring set mid-show, became a timeless snapshot of unscripted joy. It wasn't just comedy, it was affection disguised as chaos. Number 3. David Brenner, the everyman who made Johnny feel at home. David Brenner wasn't flashy, but he was real, and Johnny treasured that. He found humor in the ordinary, taxis, neighbors, city life. And Carson loved that his comedy came from observation, not act. Brenner can walk down any street in America and find 5 minutes of material, Johnny once said. Over the years, Brenner made more than 150 appearances, more than almost anyone. Whenever a guest canceled or the night felt off, Johnny would tell producers, "Call Brenner." Their bond was quiet and mutual, both self-made, both shy, both searching for connection through laughter. In his later years, Brenner said, "Johnny was my teacher. Every time I sat beside him, I learned how to be better, not louder." Number 2. Robin Williams, the human hurricane who left Johnny breathless. Robin Williams didn't perform on The Tonight Show. He took it. He'd arrive like a storm of voices, accents, ideas, entire universes unfolding in real time, and Carson, the master of control, would surrender, laughing until he cried. "That's not stand-up," he once told a producer afterward. "That's lightning." Beneath the chaos, though, Johnny recognized the ache. Robin's wild energy hid something familiar, the same loneliness Carson masked behind jokes. They shared that invisible ache that makes comedians run faster from silence. After one particularly volcanic performance, Johnny looked at Robin, smiling softly. "You're something else," he said. It wasn't for the audience, it was admiration, pure, unfiltered, human. Number 1. Joan Rivers, the protege who broke his heart. But of all the guests Johnny Carson cherished, none mattered more, or hurt more, than Joan Rivers. She'd come on as an unknown comic in 1965, nervous, biting, hysterical. Halfway through her debut, Johnny turned to her and said, "Live on air, you're going to be a star." He wasn't wrong. He nurtured her career for years, bringing her back again and again. She filled in as guest host, matched his wit beat for beat, and became his heir apparent. Then came the break. In 1986, when Fox offered Joan her own late-night show, she accepted, but didn't tell Johnny first. He heard from the trades. To him, it felt like betrayal. The friendship ended overnight. He banned her from the show and never spoke to her again. Even years later, the wound lingered. One friend remembered Johnny sighing, "She was the best of them. I just wish it had ended differently." When Joan finally returned to The Tonight Show decades later, under Jimmy Fallon, the studio erupted, and somewhere you could almost feel Johnny's ghost smiling, proud, forgiving, maybe still a little sad, because she wasn't just his guest, she was his legacy. The man behind the curtain. When Johnny Carson died in 2005, America mourned the man who had made the nights brighter, but behind that composure was a heart that had always belonged to his guests, to the misfits, rebels, dreamers, and fools who reminded him of himself. He once said, "A good guest forgets there's a camera." Maybe that's why these 10 meant so much. With them, Johnny didn't have to perform. He could simply be. And long after the laughter faded, that's what stayed. The quiet between the punchlines, the glimmer in his eyes, and the echo of a laugh that still, somehow, fills the night. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below, as it helps support this channel. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.